for this tutorial, what I want to do is show you how you can use quite basic setups in order to still get quite a dynamic range of movement out of a character. I've set up a character here which is my rabbit, and using just layers of PNGs with very little in the way of frame by frame animation. I've got an animation where I can turn the character's head and it can look up and things, and this is all built using individual PNGs which have just layered and I move in a particular way. So what I'm going to do is just go through this to show how the setup works and show you how you can set up something similar yourself. So I'm going to go for a new project. Let's start with this one and a new composition. I'm just going to make it 1920 1080. Doesn't really matter for this, it's just something that I can use to show how everything works. I've got a grey background because most of my images are white with black outlines, and I'm going to import all the files that I need. So I've got everything here. I'm going to take everything except for that sideways face there and just import it in. So now that I've got these parts, I'm going to grab them and just chuck them onto the timeline, and they'll be a bit of a mess. I'm going to scale them down because I know my rabbit's going to be smaller. It's going to need to be a bit smaller than this. I've just taken all these parts and they're all layered up in a crazy way at the moment, and I need to rearrange these because what I've done is I've taken my rabbit drawing and I've broken it up into different parts. Now these are only a couple of the parts here, but I've broken it down even further than that. So I've taken the body, which is the lower part of the body here. I've got, let's have a look. In fact, I can get rid of that. Where's my rabbit upper body? Here we are. Okay, so I've got nose, a kind of maw, I guess you call that, a nose and a pair of teeth which I can put onto there. I've got the back of the head which is there, so I can start building this up now based on my PSD that I created. I've got an eye in there which is too far back, and I'll pop it in there. I've got a single ear as well, which is just in here, and I've got an arm. Let's have a look at where the lower body is, or the upper body. I'm just going to put that behind the back of the head, so I've got everything in proper hierarchy. And then I've got the lower body, which I've got to put right at the back. So at the moment I don't want to have to create a left and right pause, so at the moment I'm just going to duplicate, or first of all I'm going to amend the pivot by holding down Y and just going to shift the pivot to there. I'll do the same for the ear as well, so I can just make sure I've got all my pivots in the right places so that when I'm animating this I know that I'm going to rotate stuff in the right place. So that's pretty much it, I think. Just going to pull this down to here. So most of these parts are going to rotate from, I'm going to just think about where I'm going to rotate things from. So the head would rotate from the base of the neck. The ear is going to rotate from the base of the ear. The paw and the arm, or whatever it is going to rotate from there. So I'm just making sure those pivots are set up correctly. I'm not moving the lower body for this, so I'm not really concerned about the pivot point for this at the moment. The next thing I need to do is look at duplicating the bits like the eye and the ear. So by just Control D, selecting the eye, holding down Control D, I can just duplicate the eye. I'm going to rename this to Rab Eye Right, and then I'm going to change this one to Rab Eye Left. I'm going to do the same with the ear. So beer right, and then Rab ear left. And so normally, as a rule of thumb with your animations, or sorry, when you're setting up body parts, you normally name stuff to the characters right and left. So the right ear for the character is actually this one, which is on my left hand side. That's usually the rule of thumb that I use for most stuff when I'm usually working in 3D. Don't have to, it's not really a big deal, but it's just easier if you've got a system so you can remember. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the transform and I'm going to scale, turn off the link. Oh, yeah, turn off the link, and I'm just going to do a minus scale for both of these, and then lock them again. And that means I've done minus in the x-axis with the left to right axis, and that means that it will reverse or mirror these objects. Just going to move that one over a bit. So now I've got my, oops, I just need to do that again with the paw. Going to go to scale again, turn that off. If I don't turn that off and I do minus, it'll do minus in x and y, and it'll go upside down like that. So I don't want that. I need to turn off that link, go to minus, hold down the key, hold down the I've lost track of what I was doing because I didn't duplicate it, which was a bit silly. Just going to get that back to what it was. Control D. So I've got a new paw. Just going to rename that paw. So we'll call one left, and we'll call one right. And so the left paw, that's the one. I'm going to go to minus on, minus Y. Turn that link back on, and now we've got his paws set up as well. Just turn the link back on the scale here as well, just to lock that. Okay, so now we've got our character set up in terms of everything being in the right position, but we also need to get the hierarchy sorted. At the moment, nothing has any kind of hierarchy, and what I want to do is make sure that if I move the head, the features follow. So if I need to take the eyes, and I need to parent them to the back of the head, or what I call wrap face back. I need to take the nose and the maw, and I also need to do the same. But the nose comes at the end of the maw, so I'm going to pop that so that the nose is then parented to that sort of maw or snout. The maw is like, I don't know, I don't normally use that word, but it's the area around it, like a cat or a rabbit's mouth area. Kind of like a snout. So we've got those parented up. We then need to parent the paws. The left and right paws need to be parented to the upper body. The face also needs to be parented to the upper body, because when I move this upper body, I want to make sure that the face goes with it. And you can see if I don't parent stuff correctly, like the ears, they don't follow, so I need to grab those and parent those to the face. And then I need to, oh, that's interesting, let's shift it out of the way, shift those right. So everything should start having a parent now. So the upper body, I need to parent to the lower body. So that means everything now has a parent, and everything is in a hierarchy. So if I grab this upper body now, I can move and rotate the upper body left and right. I can take the head, and I can rotate that, and I can take the ears, and I can rotate those as well. So they all work just fine. And the key thing about this is just what I wanted to show was, I'm just going to make it a second long. I'm not really doing a full animation, it's really just a demonstration, but I just need a little bit more time on that. What I want to do is show how I can use these shapes in order to gain the effect of sort of using a kind of parallax effect on the face, in order to make it look as though it's looking left and looking right, but without having to draw frame by frame. And the way to do this is to, I'm just going to grab, let's say for instance, we want to make him look to the left hand side. Okay, so first of all what I'm going to do is I'm going to just going to put a couple of markers down because I need to know where I'm putting all my keys. I'm going to select the upper body, and I'm just going to rotate this. I'm going to use the rotation key here at the beginning, and I'm going to just put in a rotation just there. So he's just going to rotate his upper body a little bit. I then need to kind of balance that, so I need to kind of balance the pause left and right by just keying those, and again it's the rotations left and right there, and I'm just going to rotate these pause so they hang down when the body rotates. So when he rotates that way, the pause sort of counteract that upper body movement. I might even bring this paw down a little bit as well. So I'm going to put in a position key there. Oh, not that one. No, I might as well have them on both. So that when the body moves that way, oh, put one in there, the paws sort of hang down. Oops. Sort of like a sort of pendulum swing thing. So you can see he's rotating his upper body, and then the arms are hanging down in the same way. I'm going to again do a similar thing with the head. So I'm going to take the head and I'm going to rotate the head like that the other way, so that his head stays upright. But I'm also going to key the position because I want the head to appear as if it's moving slightly to the left, and I'll show you why this is happening in a second. So I'm moving. You can see I'm using that hierarchy to move everything over. So he's kind of wobbling to the left hand side there. So as if he's leaning. But the trick is now is to get the feeling that his face is moving. And the way I do this, or the face or the head is turning, the way to do this is using scale, bit of rotation, bit of movement on these individual bits. So what I'm going to do is get the nose and the maw here, and I'm going to key them at the start. Whoops. Position, scale, and maybe rotation. I'll just put those in. Turn it there. And then I'm going to grab the nose of the maw bit. I'm going to move that across. And then I'm going to grab the nose and I'm going to move that across. So hopefully you'll start to see that when he moves across, if you ignore his eyes, it looks as if his head is kind of turning. You'll get the sort of general feel of that. The other way to do this, the other things you can do is also scale. This eye would be turning away from us. So what I want to do is take the scale, I'm just going to key the scale in position, and I'm going to scale that, squeeze the eye there and move it across to there. And oops, and then I'm going to do the same for this one. So I'm going to go position, scale, move the eye across, but I'm scaling the other way. So widening the eye. And that's because one eye is turning towards us, so we're seeing more of it, which is this eye here, and one eye is turning away from us, which is this one here, so we're seeing less of it. So that's when it starts to look like it's turning. And then the ears, I guess with these, you just need to, there's going to be a little bit of movement because they're kind of attached to the back of the head. So with the ears, if I do a position key there, turn it, and then what should happen is with this ear here, it will turn a little that way, and this ear here will just move a little that way. The other thing is that because a rabbit sort of its ears don't stick straight up, they sort of turn. They're kind of folded slightly back. They seem. So what I can do is I can also put in a rotation key. Let's pop in a rotation key on both of these here. Put in a rotation key so that when he turns, the ears turn a little bit. And then if I pop in a scale key on both of these, I'm going to just scale this one here, because it wouldn't actually get longer as it turns. If I look at it from this view, both these ears are the same height at the tips of the ears. When I turn it this way, if I turn the head, if this ear is pointing away from us. When it turns, what would happen is it would kind of straighten up like that, but it wouldn't get any higher than this here. So what I can do is, if I just squish that down and make sure it's level there, it'll create an optical illusion, which means, whoops, I actually need to key that scale. It'll create an optical illusion, so it'll look a little bit like it's turning away from us. Kind of. So you get the general gist of the way that you can make this face turn away from the viewer without having to do kind of frame by frame animation. You can do little tricks to it as well. If you grab the nose here, if I go to let me see if I can find it. I want to create a distort and I want to create a slant. So if I create a slant on this nose here, I want the nose to appear as it sort of starts to move towards a side profile, as if the tip of the nose here sticks out a little bit further than the teeth. So what I can do is I can get that slant and I can key it, and then I can just put a little bit of a tilt on that. Now if I grab that nose and just put it back a little bit, it means that when he turns his face there now, the nose will slant just a wee bit there. The other thing I could also do is just scale this nose a little bit so that it's just ever so slightly tweaked like that. If it's full on the front here, we'd see the full width of the nose. The more it turns away from us, the thinner that nose gets. Probably just a bit of rotation tweak on it as well, maybe. Let's just tweak it just a little bit, just to try and add to that effect. So now we're getting this idea of the rabbit's face just by using rotation and scale, by calculating which things are closest to us and which things are furthest away. By moving the things that are closest to us, the nose furthest over, and then moving the things that are furthest away in the other direction, and by scaling the eyes in different ways, we're able to give this illusion of a head turning without having to do sort of a lot of frame by frame animation. The same thing also applies if you're wanting to look up as well. There's a limit to it. Obviously you can't obviously just go the whole hog and move the face to the side, because eventually the illusion will break. But you can do stuff like, once I've keyed this now, I can take this and start to move everything up. On the front of the face, so if I turn this, you can see the face starts to look up there. Because the ears are on the back of the head, they would move down because they're attached to the back of the head. And it would be better if I key their position as well, would be the smart thing to do, because I haven't done that yet, or I haven't got a keyframe on the position. So look, I do apparently. Oops. Just move those just down just a little bit. And with the head being tilted back, these would start to be tilted away. So again, sort of I can approximate that effect by rotating and squashing the ears down. Again, let's just move those keyframes along so they're in unison with everything else. Took this one a little bit too far. Keep keying it in the wrong place. Right, there we go. So not only can I move the head to the side, I can also tilt it back as well, so you can give it a bit of a sniff like that. And that's the basics of just using simple PNGs, or simple images, rotation, scale, position changes based on where they are in space. Again, using a sort of like a parallax system, so the stuff that's closest to you moves the furthest, or the stuff at the far furthest, the stuff that's, when you're using a rotation, things that are the closest, like the nose, will move the furthest, and if there's something is far back, like the ears, they'll also start to move the furthest in the other direction, and you'll get this kind of effect in here. It's based on the fact that if I take, let's just do a quick layer, solid. So if I create this, if I was going to create a head, very basic head here, and then if I create a nose for it, let's just create this nose, and let's say, oops, I'm just going to put that back where it was. So if that's my nose, and then if I take a, let's say a ponytail, solid, let's say that it's a girl with a ponytail. So let's say, and I'll just create an eye in there as well, see if that'll help. Oh, is that going to help? Okay, so we have our basic head here. And I'll show you what's going on with this, or at least when it's going up and down, which is the easiest way of explaining. If I rotate this head from the base of the neck there, and I'm going to parent this to that, I'm going to parent this to that as well. So if I rotate this head here back, and if my eye line is, say, about there, so if I'm looking directly at the eyes of this character, now if I rotate this head back like this, you'll see that the eye drops below and above the eye line as I rotate up and down. The same with the nose as well. The nose, because it's closer to the eye line, is more extreme. The eye dips a little bit above and below the eye line. So if I grab this eye line here and put it in there, I'll just change the layer so that it's or change the fill so it's easier to see. So if this is my eye line, when I rotate the head up, the eye shifts up, and when I rotate the head down, the eye shifts down. The nose does it in an even more extreme way as well. It moves even further compared to the eye line. And it's the same with this ponytail as well. That drops below the eye line, and this is what I'm doing essentially when I'm tipping the head up and back here. I'm making that nose move further. The ears that are on the back of the head here will move down when the head tips up, in the same way as this ponytail drops down, and the nose moves up, and that's all I'm doing is I'm kind of readjusting, and the head pretty much stays in the same place. The eyes move up a little bit, but not a lot, because again with this eye it's not moving up and down and having as much movement in comparison to my eye line as the nose is, because the nose is closer. So this is essentially the principle there of how this kind of rabbit works, and hopefully that was useful.